Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be back making more ADHD and mental health content. I took a little bit of a break. I did go on vacation for the beginning of the year, but I am back and I received a video camera for Christmas and I am so excited. I was previously using my mom's camera, which was wonderful, but now I have my own so I can kind of film on my own timeline. I'm so excited. And yeah, I also am excited to film because the amount of comments I received on my ADHD symptoms video was overwhelmingly good, and it made me so happy to hear that other people were connecting to it and connecting with others in the comments as well. I love to hear other people's experiences, particularly the people who are being diagnosed in their 50s and 60s. I showed my mom some of the comments and she was overwhelmed with emotion, and it just made me so happy to see other people like her who have been diagnosed a little bit later in life who are also like still constantly learning about themselves, and it just warmed my heart. So I did receive a comment asking about a video that I could make about the supplements that I take for my ADHD. And that's something that I've actually wanted to film for a while. I have hesitated because I'm not a doctor, so I didn't really want to be offering people advice on something that I have experience with it, but I don't know like the medical basis for these things. So I just want to preface this by saying that I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a mental health professional either. So if you're curious about these things or want to get recommended by someone who is, I would recommend reaching out to someone other than myself. But I can tell you from my experience what has worked for me and what hasn't. I did want to roll this into a nutritional video, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about nutrition as well, because I think nutrition and supplementation go hand in hand. They're both important to get your essential vitamins and minerals and everything you need. I do also want to put a trigger warning on this that I'm going to be talking about disordered eating, and I'll put this in the description. So if that's something that you don't want to be watching or listening to, I completely understand. I'm going to start out this video talking about my experience with nutrition and eating. And so if you want to just get into the advice part, I'll segment this video. You can skip this. That's totally okay. I just want to offer my experience and my history just before I talk about anything so that you understand where I'm coming from with my nutritional journey. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a sophomore in college, so I went 19 years not knowing really what was causing some of the issues I was having. And starting in 7th grade, I started to develop a very, very poor relationship with food and my own self-image. This led me into about 6 or 7 years of binge eating. And what I realize now is that I was eating for dopamine. I can understand that now. ADHD is basically like searching for a dopamine fix. That's what I like to boil it down to. And one of the easiest and quickest ways you can get a dopamine fix is through food. There are some foods that get you a really quick dopamine fix. Sugar. They can also cause a crash. This can cause a binge eating cycle because as you crash, you want to maintain that high. And so I was eating more and more to kind of keep that dopamine high. I was not really getting joy or satisfaction in many aspects of my life for a very long time, and not knowing that I had a disorder that was causing this, I just was really hard on myself for many years, not understanding why I couldn't break the cycle, and I come to realize now this was why, and so it's been a journey of forgiving myself for that. So I struggled with binge eating. I was then diagnosed with ADHD and prescribed stimulants. And the stimulants were effective. However, a common and potentially severe side effect of stimulants is that they can curb appetite significantly. This is not true of everyone, but it was true for me. And for the first time in my life, I was actually forgetting to eat. As unhealthy as that is, for someone who has struggled with food noise for a very, very long time, constantly thinking about food when my next meal would be, this was eye-opening for me. I kind of went off of that momentum and I started to restrict my food intake quite severely. Because of the stimulants, I wasn't focusing on food, I was forgetting about it. I lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. So for the past few years, I have been working on my relationship with food. I've been in recovery for about a year, and I have come to realize that stimulants should not be a dietary tool. I've been eating for my ADHD instead of because of it. And this was really the way that I was able to kind of break my disordered eating pattern, because when I was eating a lot, all the time, my binge eating, I was not feeling good. It did not help my mood. It made it worse. My energy levels were so low. My ADHD, even though I didn't know I had it at the time, it was probably the worst it's been. And on the other side of that, when I wasn't eating enough, my ADHD was also severe. My symptoms were making daily functioning and performing in school very difficult. The semester that I was restricting my food intake was the worst semester I ever had in school, because my brain was not getting enough fuel. And that was one of the things that my therapist impressed upon me. She said, your brain needs carbs and sugar and all of these essential things to function, and one of the first things people cut out when they go on really restrictive diets is carbs, and that's pretty much the main fuel for your brain. So I was like, no wonder I was having brain fog. So as I have been healing and recovering from this aspect of my life, I was able to get back on track, maintain a fairly healthy lifestyle and weight for a few years now. My ADHD has gotten better from nutrition and exercise. I found exercise is one of my favorite ways to get a dopamine boost instead of just food. I found that sunlight is a great way to get a dopamine boost, so I love to walk outside. That's one of the ways that I've been able to maintain my health and my lifestyle. And I've been doing these things for my ADHD instead of working against it. I try to think of it as like a little Tamagotchi pet that I have to kind of feed and take care of, because it's my brain. You have to take care of your brain just like you have to take care of your body. So if you're someone with ADHD who's been struggling with eating, I just want you to know people with ADHD tend to have poor relationships with food for two reasons. First of all, getting that dopamine fix. Food is really easy. It's right there. Particularly if you're home a lot, if you're not super busy, it's right in your kitchen. It's right there. It's one of the easiest ways to get it. And particularly if you're eating food that's causing that high and then that crash, it's a constant craving. So that's important to keep in mind. Another thing is that ADHD hyperfocus, sometimes we can forget about things. I know a lot of people with ADHD who forget to eat throughout the day because it's not on their mind. Maybe they're not somewhere where they have easy access to food, or they're hyper-focusing on something and that thing is not food. So there are kind of two ends of the spectrum. So if you're someone who struggles with either of those things, I want you to know that if you do have ADHD, there is a chance that could be stemming from your ADHD. And if you want to work on your nutrition, that could help you. First, I want to talk about supplementation. I used to be huge on supplements. I was taking a lot of them, and I've really pared it down in recent months because I realized I think some of them were kind of counteracting each other. So my main thing, really the foundation of everything is fish oil, omega-3. Sorry, I'm talking with my hands. When I was talking to my therapist about nutrition, when I was eating very little, she said that two of the main sources of fuel for your brain are carbs and fatty acids, and those are obviously some of the first to go when you're restricting. So your brain needs fat to work, basically, good fat, and fish oil is one of the best ways you can get that. Avocado also, and fish oil, or omega-3, are very easy to supplement as well. If you're not getting them in your daily food intake, it's really easy to take a capsule and you'll be able to get that. So I take 3,000 milligrams. I think that was what she recommended to me based on my needs and my lifestyle. The next supplement I take is a vitamin D supplement. After my restrictive eating phase, I went to the primary doctor and they recommended that I get my vitamin, minerals, electrolyte levels checked, because those things tend to kind of get out of whack when you've been restricting food or even binge eating sometimes. So I got my levels checked, and basically what they said to me was, "You're pale and you have blue eyes, let's check your vitamin D." And it turns out that I was actually pretty severely deficient in vitamin D, so they gave me a high dose of vitamin D for several weeks, and I now take a daily vitamin D supplement on my own just to kind of maintain that. So I will say, if you're someone who struggles with exhaustion or muscle weakness or function, low mood, I guess if you're someone who's pale, blue eyes, I would recommend getting your vitamin D levels checked. Also, if you're recently recovering from any type of disordered eating, I would highly, highly recommend getting like basic blood chem panels. Just those levels can really, really change and fluctuate when you're not getting the nutrients that you need, particularly electrolyte levels, which are important for heart function. I would recommend getting this checked if you're able and if you have access to, if you're in recovery. The next supplement that I take consistently is turmeric. My family has always looked into natural supplements, and I found that it helps with my inflammation, with my bloating. I have some digestive issues based on my nutritional history. So I found that it helps with that. I also take glutamine, L-glutamine, it helps heal the gut lining. And those are really the only daily supplements I take. So that's fish oil, vitamin D, turmeric, and L-glutamine. Sometimes I take L-theanine for sleep because I really struggle with sleep due to my racing thoughts. That's an ADHD thing, and it helps calm the mind. I was recently informed that melatonin doesn't really do for sleep what a lot of people think it does. It helps people get their sleep cycles back on track, but it's not as helpful for like in the moment when you need help with sleep. L-theanine, I was informed, is more effective for like in the moment, so that's what I've been taking. I found it does help me, helps calm my mind. I usually sleep much better when I take L-theanine. The next thing I want to talk about is the nutritional things that you can be doing to help your ADHD. So carbs are important to brain function. Any nutritionist will tell you that carbs are essential to everyday function. Your brain needs them. Naturally derived carbs are going to help keep your blood sugar levels steady, which will also help reduce spikes that people can experience with ADHD, like mood spikes or energy spikes. Sometimes those can be related to blood sugar levels, and simple carbs can help keep those blood sugar levels steady throughout the day, which I have found is important. If you're someone who struggles to eat regularly, you can set alarms. That's what I do sometimes, particularly when I take my medication. I try to eat every 3 to 4 hours. That's what I was recommended, just to keep those blood sugar levels, that brain function kind of consistent throughout the day. Then fatty acids and oils, that can look like avocado. Eggs have good fat in them. A fish oil supplement. Those are kind of my main staples. And then protein. Protein is really important for muscle function, for energy levels throughout the day. It also helps to keep you satiated food-wise. I know it really helped me with my binge eating. It really helped keep me feeling full throughout the day, and I had a lot less cravings than I do. And so it was harder to justify like eating on random cravings, and it really just helped me with my eating recovery in general. So I highly recommend upping your protein intake. I think a lot of people don't get as much protein as they need. So those are the main food recommendations I would make. Honestly, every meal for me, I try to think of it as a formula, because if I try to get too creative every time I eat, I will burn myself out and I will not cook for myself anymore. So I try to think of it as a formula. I try to include a carb, a protein, a fat, and something green. Obviously doesn't have to be green, but like some type of vegetable or fruit. I don't always do the measurements that are recommended, like the food pyramid, but it's something that I try to do. I usually do like grain bowls, so I'll do like rice, type of protein like chicken. I'll do carrots or I don't know, I'm trying to think of a vegetable, some type of vegetable on the side, and then usually a sauce, obviously, to make it taste good, because, you know, you kind of want that dopamine boost of, oh, my food tastes good, you know, I'm excited to eat it. So yeah, I just try to think of it as a formula. Sometimes I get creative when I have the time and energy, but otherwise I just try to keep it simple, because when I try to get fancy with it, I just crash out. So yeah. So the final piece of advice I have, and what I want to talk about, is who you can go to for help if you're having some nutritional struggles, particularly around ADHD. So the first person I would talk to would be a therapist. If you have a counselor or a therapist, first of all, I'd recommend finding someone who specializes in, or at least knows about ADHD. My counselor is specialized in ADHD. She has it herself, and that's honestly really nice to talk to someone who can understand your experience firsthand. So she was a great resource to talk about nutritional things. I didn't realize that nutrition was such a difficult topic and thing to deal with ADHD, and she helped me realize that it was not just me, that many of the issues I've had with food have stemmed from this. So that was a great resource. I will say also a nutritionist can be helpful. The nutritionist I talked to was not necessarily specialized in ADHD, but there were basic nutritional things that I wasn't doing that help with everyday function. Obviously, if it helps with everyday function, it's likely going to therefore help with your ADHD. So that was where I got advice about like protein intake. That was when they told me like carbs. I was not eating enough carbs, and so I was having really horrible brain fog throughout my day, and they recommended like hitting this amount of carbs throughout the day. So yeah, those are my two main recommendations for people to talk to about nutrition. If you're not really sure where to start with it, I would hope that a counselor would have a nutritionist's information, and they would be able to refer you to someone. This is a topic that, I mean, right off the cuff, I care a lot about. I just kind of started talking and all this information flew out. So this is something that I'm really, really passionate about, and it's something that I'm constantly trying to learn, because I feel like there is such a direct relationship, with me at least, between what I'm eating, what I'm putting into my body, and the output that I'm producing with my little ADHD brain. It's just something that I try to take care of. Gotta feed it, gotta water it, take it for walks. It's like a little pet living in your brain. So yeah, if you have any more questions or requests for videos, please send them my way. I love talking about this, and as I try to say in every video, self-compassion. I spent a really long time being very hard on myself for the choices I made when I was younger that made me look and act a way that I was not proud of, and it took me a very long time to unlearn those things that I was saying to myself, those messages that I was giving myself. Honestly, the more that I try to have compassion for myself, the better my brain feels and the less I check out. So as long as I feel like it's a safe place in here, then I'm able to do more work and have more function throughout my day. So I think that's something that's important to think on as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.